10 lessons that I learned from reading a ton of books around money, listening to podcasts from financial advisors, reading a ton of blog posts, and just watching a lot of YouTube videos. I'm going to distill all of my learnings into 10 lessons for you folks. I hope you enjoy it. And if you're here for the first time, if you like the content that you're seeing, do consider subscribing. Lesson number 1, spend less than you earn. You might come back and say, hey Praveen, this seems such a simple advice. I didn't come here to watch this kind of an advice. But friends, let me tell you something. Getting money in the past few decades or years has become very, very democratized, right? No cost EMIs, easy loans, buy now, pay later, credit cards. You have credit card tie-ups with every little e-commerce player that you have. You have credit cards for every need and every purpose, right? So what has happened is, the money is easily available in a lot of people's hands, because of which they spend on things that they don't need, they don't want, and they do it to ensure that they are showing the status to the society, right? And let me tell you friends, this is the easiest way to wipe off your money, is to show that you have money, right? For example, let's say I have 50,000. The easiest way to wipe off that money is to buy a phone for 50,000 so that my friends are going to be super impressed. And trust me, none of your friends are going to be impressed with the latest phone that you have or any status driven things that you do, right? So always practice, living below your means. Spend less than you earn to ensure that you're getting rich, right? But you might ask me, hey, with such easy access to credit cards, no cost EMIs, how do I ensure that I live below my means? Which is where the second lesson comes, which is creating a budget, right? So what does creating a budget mean? Because when I started earning like around 10 years back, what I used to do is I used to broadly think, have this mental calculation of, hey, 3,000 is what I'm going to spend per month, 3,000 rupees is what I'm going to spend for eating out, 2,000 is for internet and all the other stuff, 5,000 is for, let's say, my house rent. I used to live in like a small, hostel kind of a setup. But trust me friends, the moment I started noting down my expenses, it was far, far, far greater than what I, had a mental calculation for. For example, my eating out expenses was anywhere between 5 to 7,000. My, all the other chores like internet, electricity and water charges were way above what I had estimated. And I was spending a lot more on travel and other socializing events rather than trying to save up. The easiest way to start saving money or building your wealth is create an awareness around your spending, for which you need to have certain set of money allocated for your needs, which is things like eating, your internet, electricity and things like that, something for your wants which gives you happiness, and something for your lifestyle, and ensure that all of this doesn't cross more than 50-60% of your income. Third lesson, just to ensure that you are having a constant source of income, try to see if you can have multiple sources of income, which brings us to the third lesson. But how do you ensure that you have multiple sources of income? This is something that I picked up by reading a lot of books, and a lot of people who have been financially successful have ensured that they have multiple sources of income. So it could be through book IPs, it could be through freelancing, it could be through investing in stocks that gives them dividends, or it could be investing in assets that gives them money, right? What a lot of people end up doing is they buy a car, they buy a home, or they buy stuff that they think are assets, but in fact are liability. So what is the difference between an asset and a liability? In one line, asset is anything that keeps earning you money while you're asleep, whereas a liability is something that whose value comes down the moment you buy it. Let me give you an example, right? Let's say you buy a great stock that's going to give you dividend, and you're buying that stock every month. So while you're sleeping, that stock is doing the work for you, earning you the dividends. Or let's say you've published a book, and you put it on Amazon self-publishing, or you've struck a deal with an author. What happens is while you're asleep, there are people who are buying it. For example, this YouTube video, right? So I'm coming, producing this video, and I'm going to go asleep, hoping that in the coming years people are watching this, drawing value, and YouTube pays me for people watching this video. Whereas a liability is something like a car, a phone, or let's say anything that materialistic things that you buy. The moment you drive a car out of a showroom, boom, 50% of its value is gone. The moment you buy a phone and sell it to someone else, 30-40% of its value is already gone, right? While it's a great necessity to have, you have to decide whether you want to invest so much in things that are liabilities, right? And what is the level of liability each person wants to invest is totally dependent on them. But every spend you make, every big spend you make, always ask yourself, is it an asset? Is it a liability? Lesson number 4, And this is one of my favorite lessons, is to know how much you need and what kind of money will you say enough to. And this is something that I picked up from Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. At times when I ask this question to a lot of my friends or people, who've been very, very big on, earning, having side hustles, I ask them, hey, what is that money that you will be very, very happy with? People come up with very big numbers like 50 crores, 100 crores, 75 crores and things like that. Friends, let me tell you something. You sit down and do this calculation like how we did for our needs, wants and lifestyle. You will be very, very, very surprised that you need far, far, far lesser money than what you have predicted, right? So I advise you to kind of sit down, and when I ask this question of, hey, why do you need 50 crores? Why do you need 100 crores? People say, hey, I want to travel the world. I want to be in the most luxurious hotel in this country and things like that. But friends, let me tell you something. You can do all of that at a much lesser cost than you think. And that's why I advise everyone to do this exercise probably once every year. I'm not saying, hey, decide that at 22, 23 and forget about it till you're 50 or 60. But do that probably once every year or once every 2 years or once you have a big jump or once you have a major life event like a marriage or having a kid or you're moving cities and things like that. Whenever there is a big life event happening, always reevaluate that number and you'll be surprised to know that you will need far lesser money than you think, and that ensures that you're working, you know what you're working towards, right? Because when you don't know how much you want, you're going to employ a lot of unethical ways to get there, which I don't recommend doing personally. Fifth one is staying invested for long enough. And this is a lesson I picked up from Intelligent Investor. Again, a great timeless classic investing book which speaks about not disturbing the power of compounding. In fact, Warren Buffett in one of his famous interviews said, hey, your philosophy to investing seems very simple. You buy valuable companies at a slightly less than market rate and you hold it for long. So what's your secret for being rich? And he replied saying, my philosophy is very simple. The problem with most people wanting to get rich is they want to do it very, very quick. Right? So friends, let me tell you something. If you want to get rich, it's best advice to stay invested in whatever you're investing for a very, very long time. The mistake I see people doing is checking their portfolio every once in a while, once a week, once a month, and then doing these panic buying or panic selling, and trust me, you're never going to get rich by following the market or trying to beat the market. At least it doesn't work for me, given that I have my full-time job, I have my creator journey that I'm trying to set up, and I have a family to run and stuff like that. So personally, it doesn't work for me, and I would say I am a typical case study for how the world looks like. At least 7 out of 10 people would be like me. So don't try to kind of do short-term things hoping that bet the market, but stay invested in it for a very, very long term. Which brings us to the sixth lesson, is trust in the power of compounding. Right? Again, if you're someone who is very remotely associated with investing, or you have watched a few videos, or you've seen people speak about investing or financial freedom, you will be surprised. I mean, I would be very surprised if you haven't heard the power of compounding, right? So in Psychology of Money and a lot of other things like Lifestyle Investor or Just Keep Buying, the central philosophy of the book is to buy stuff and never disturb compounding, and to let compounding do its magic, right? In fact, I've done a separate video on how the magic of compounding works. For example, let's say I give you $5,000 every month, right? And then at the end of 24 months, you will end up having $240,000, right? So let's say I give you $10 every week with 10% increase every week, right? So week 2 you will have $11, week 3 you will have 10% increase on that $11 and things like that. And at the end of 24 months, person A, who is just getting $10,000 a month, would be at $240,000, whereas with a simple 10% increase month on month, person B would end up having $2.2 million. That's the magic and the power of compounding. So never disturb compounding, and by staying invested for long, and ensure that you never take out the money that you have invested in the right stocks unless you feel like it's an absolute emergency, which I would again recommend you should have accounted for with some amount of emergency fund. Lesson number 7, your relationship with money is determined by your psychology than anything else, right? So here is my problem with a lot of financial advice that's available on YouTube or blogs or books and things like that. It doesn't account for how a person feels about their money. For example, if you're brought up in a household that has had a lot of difficulty with money, you wouldn't necessarily go for a lot of risky investments. For example, I was always brought up in a household where my dad was the first generation graduate. He was the first one to go for a private job. He was the first one to move to the city. So his way of investing or his way of seeing that money was to ensure that he gets maximum value for every buck he spends, and to ensure that he invests only in very, very safe instruments, right? So I am never going to be successful in going and telling him that, hey, you should be investing in X mutual fund or the stock market or in crypto or whatever instruments that I feel will give him far higher returns than the instruments that he is investing in. Because growing up, his relationship with money was to scramble for value out of every rupee or every dollar he spends, and ensure that his family is protected from any financial let's say downturns or any financial disasters. His relationship with money was always that way, whereas my relationship, thanks to the privilege that my my dad had built the security, I go for slightly riskier investments because I go for things that will give me high returns. So my dad cannot convince me to say that, hey, you know what, you need to be investing in safer instruments, because I know that I have certain amount of financial backing thanks to my day job and my wife who is also working. So your relationship with money is far more dependent on psychology, which brings us to the 8th lesson, which is there is no one size fits all, right? And this is an something I would say is my pet peeve when it comes to investing lessons. Is someone say, hey, invest in stock X, or buy this crypto, or put your money in this recurring deposit or fixed deposit, or do this instruments, because there is never, friends, a one size fits all approach, right? And that is why even in all the 8 tips that we have discussed below, I'm never going into specifics to say, hey, do this, do that, because as I said, it's dependent on psychology and depends on the situation, how much you're earning and what you choose to do with your money. So what we are speaking about is broader psychology, and never take anyone's advice or blanket advice, so to say, because there is never one size fits all when it comes to investing or financial freedom. Let's say you have chose to invest and you've chose to ensure that your wealth is growing. Try to automate a lot of things that you do with your money, right? For example, first of every month, my salary comes around the last week of every month. I ensure that most of my investments that go to various instruments are automated, right? So by the first or second of every month, my rent is paid, my EMIs are paid, my investments are gone, and I would be left with very little liquid cash to fiddle with, right? So what this does is it automatically removes a lot of decisions from my head, and what it also does is puts the discipline to ensure that I have to plan for bigger expenses. So the moment you start automating your finances from a needs, wants and lifestyle front, so I have a budget allocated for my travel, I have budgets allocated for, let's say, if I want to buy a new phone, I don't go and impulsively buy it. I plan for it like at least 3 to 6 months down the line, because I usually buy iPhone to ensure that I shoot my videos through that. So I plan for it 6 or 8 months down the line to ensure that all my other savings and all my other things are not affected, right? So the moment you start automating, it ensures that it brings the financial discipline to plan, and you will make far lesser impulsive purchases than you imagine. So the first of every month, ensure that money goes out to savings, money goes out to all your emergency fund, ensures that it goes out to the mutual fund, stocks, crypto, whatever you choose to investing, and something goes to your lifestyle expenses as well, and you're left with very little money to fiddle with, right? This ensures that you're planning for the bigger expenses. The 10th and the last lesson that I learned is use money to buy back your time, because a lot of people think, I can use money to show off who I am, buy the most luxurious watch or buy the most luxurious phone and things like that. And all the best, I'm not saying that's wrong, but ensure that you're using to buy back your time. Ensure that you've saved up for the rainy day. Ensure that you're never disturbing compounding. And despite all of this, if you have money to buying whatever you're buying, great, it means that you've finally arrived, and I would congratulate you. So use it to buy back your time, and never buy it to ensure that you're flaunting how much money you have, because showing off your money is the easiest way to vanish your wealth, whereas buying back your time is the biggest leverage that money can give you. So that's the 10th and the final lesson. Did I miss any lesson, or do you think I should have read some other book before I made this video? Do let me know in the comments. Until I see you in the next video, this is Praveen Ramesh signing off.